Let's crack open a beer and share some thoughts.
Welcome to Hopinions, and a slightly different show for us this week.
Well, firstly, no guests.
No guests, just us.
In one of our studios.
Yes, one of our many studios that we now have.
I feel like the littlest hobo at times.
Yeah, just wherever will take us to do the recording.
But yeah, we're focusing on our beery catch-ups.
Yeah, because obviously we had a couple of weeks off of recording.
Yes, half term when I was away. But
yeah, because we recorded all of the Birmingham content in one go, and then we put it out while we were having a bit of a break.
Yep.
So firstly, probably what I want to do is just put out an apology for the audio qualities on the two Birmingham shows, because it wasn't up to our normal standard.
Yeah, I mean, we were obviously very disappointed with how it came out. I mean, a lot of effort got into hoping to do the opposite, to be honest. So it's just unfortunate. I mean, again, we know now for next time we would do it differently anyway. But I mean, I hope everyone got something out of it still.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was in the end. I mean, it took us a while to decide what we were going to do, and we took a lot of we took some comments from our listener panel that we have as well. And in the end, we decided that content really trumped quality. And we put it out.
It's definitely how I felt as well, and I felt there was enough good content in there that if people could get past the quality of the audio, the quality of the content would trump it. You may have to choose where you listen to it.
It's definitely not one for the car.
No.
It's definitely one for a quiet room with headphones. Preferably noise cancelling ones. Preferably in a room that maybe like a sensory chamber or something where you can
eyes closed.
Yes, yeah. But yeah. So that was the last time we actually recorded, with the exception of last week.
Yeah.
But then we had a guest on last week.
Yeah.
So we kind of had to factor that in.
So effectively, our beery catch-up almost goes back to after the first Essex Bottle Share in October.
Yeah, it's about a 4-week catch-up that we're on. So we thought we'd give a whole show over to just catching up on what we've been up to, and also in that time we have put out a few polls that we've not spoken about.
Yep.
So we are just going to do a bit of a roundup of those, and also a bit of a roundup of quite a lot of comments that we've had in terms of the bitter and Lignum as well.
Yep.
So that's a lot of content to get through. It's a good job we've got a lot of beer to
we
get
have
through.
Got a lot of beers. So what have we got up first, Steve? Who from?
Okay, so really, really grateful actually, because one of our listeners got in touch and said that he worked for Grain Brewery and would we be interested in some of their beers in cans. So I said, yeah, I've always been a fan of any Grain beers that I've tried. I really enjoy them. I think they're really well made beers. So he arranged to get us some of those down, and then he got back in touch and said, the guys from Ampersand have heard that you've spoken about them on the show, and they're keen to send some beers down as well. So what we ended up with was a little kind of care package from Norfolk.
So it's almost like a Norfolk showcase.
It is, yeah. So we've got 4 beers from Ampersand and 2 from Grain, and I just want to thank at Raoul Optimus, who is a listener to the show, for making this happen as well, and he brought the beers down as well and delivered them.
Thank you very much.
Well. So we are going to get stuck into those. Like I said, we've got 6 to get through.
So let's have a look at the first one. It's called Umlat. Well, that's how it looks.
That's what I'm going for.
Galaxy dry hopped cone style beer, so Kolsch style.
Okay, cool. Cheers.
That's delicious.
It is.
That Galaxy really, I mean, you know, for regular listeners, they'll know that I go to Cologne on a fairly semi-regular basis, to be honest. We've probably been out there. And while Kolsch for me is a very easy drink, it does start to get a bit dull after a period of time. This Galaxy dry hopping is definitely taking the dullness off this one for me.
It's a very soft mouthfeel, isn't it?
It's very lively. This was very well carbonated,
massively so. But then, as I say, in the mouth, that's just a little bit softer. it finishes. It's got almost a smooth feel to it, and it finishes really smooth as well.
Yeah, there's no real rough edges to it at all, which you don't get with Kolsch. But what you get with Kolsch is that it's very hard to differentiate between, the really rubbish ones and the best ones. You can pick it out, but it's hard at times because there isn't that much between them.
Yeah,
so, that's nice. It's a good start.
It is a good start. So just a little bit about Ampersand before we get into the rest of this beer in the show. So small brewery based in South Norfolk, who are brewing seasonal beers that best showcase the ingredients and the skills as a modern progressive brewery. It's a father and son team of Adrian and Andy Hopwell, and they're in a small converted barn on the family farm. So it's a bespoke brewery kit which has been set up to produce high quality small batch beer. Their philosophy is simple. They produce the beer that they want to drink to the best possible standard, and by doing this we hope the beer speaks for itself and that you enjoy it as much as we do.
Okay, well, I mean, slightly different for a Kolsch as well, because it's so you got unfined, unfiltered and bottle conditioned,
which I found by pouring too much into one of the glasses, i.e. mine. Because I've got a few bits floating around in mine.
So the bit which says leave the yeast sediment inside the bottle hasn't quite.
Well, I didn't read it.
You didn't read it, did you?
No.
You did man stuff. Just don't read the instructions.
No, just open it and get it in the glass and taste it. But no, I mean it's a really tasty beer.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good start.
Again, we often talk about enjoying beer in a particular setting. That's an absolute summer drinker, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. I mean,
Kolsch
cold is so much a summer drink.
Just knock them back.
Yeah, and like I said, with that, the Galaxy just does add something to it for me.
Mm. So 5% as well.
Sessionable.
Very sessionable. Very sessionable indeed.
I'd be interested to know if I get hold of some more of these, what my brothers would think of it, being both big Kolsch drinkers.
Yeah. Well, like you say, you're the resident expert on that style. Yeah. Out of the two of us, you've drunk plenty more of it than I have.
Definitely have.
It's been about 4 weeks since we've had a bit of a catch up. In that time, we collectively have drunk quite a bit of beer between us, haven't we?
Yeah, wouldn't say quite.
We've drunk a lot of beer.
We've drunk a lot of beer between us, haven't we? Well, I think the best thing to do is some sort of order, because both of us have touches of OCD.
Okay.
Now, you went to Stone.
I did go to Stone.
You went and did the ultimate day trip.
Pretty much, yeah.
So so the day trip. So what time did you start out from home?
So I got up at 3:30, left home at 4:30.
And this is on a Tuesday morning.
This was Tuesday morning.
After we'd finished recording at about 9:45 the night before.
And the night before was the night where I think we did the vocation beers, of which there were at least
8% plus
double beers in there. Yeah. So yeah, got up at 4:00. Feeling, I was all right. Could have felt better, but I was okay. That's
the excitement. It's like Christmas morning.
Yes, yeah. Went to Stansted. I think we were on the first flight to Berlin out of Stansted, which left at 6:30. Left on time. Landed in Berlin.
So I got to Berlin about 9:30 local.
Yeah, it was. No, the flight only took about an hour and a half.
Oh, was it? Okay.
It was quicker than advertised, because I remember that being. But in both directions, actually, the flight was only about an hour and a half.
Oh, that's all right.
So not bad at all. Through passport control, managed to work out that we needed to get a bus. Managed to buy bus tickets, and then got on the bus and headed towards Berlin city centre. Changing buses halfway to take us in our desired direction. Eventually making it to Stone by about 10 to 12, which was 10 minutes before it opened.
Sounds like perfect timing.
It was absolutely perfect. So doors were already open, so we popped our head in, and they were quite happy to start serving us.
Even better.
At that point, yeah. So we were obviously winning from the minute that we got there.
Okay, so first I'm going to dive in, and because obviously, as I've mentioned only once, but I've been. What was your first, once you went through those doors?
I was actually blown away by the size of the place.
Yeah.
That's the thing that gets you first of all. All I can describe it as is like an aircraft hangar. It's I think it's an old warehouse, but it's bigger than that.
Old gasworks.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's enormous, isn't it?
It's huge, and what you see is only 2/3 of it as well, because the other third is the actual functioning brewery.
Yeah, which you can see through the back of the glass,
Yeah,
can't you?
yeah. I literally cannot describe the size of the place, because you walk in and predominantly, I suppose the first thing it's selling itself on is being a bit of a dining destination.
Yep, definitely.
The main area.
And it's got quite an eclectic different spots, hasn't it?
Yes.
So you've got tables and chairs, bits at the bar, then you've got bits which almost feel like private areas, then you've got raised areas.
Yeah, there's like a mezzanine level and everything. And then off to the side you've got so you've got your main bar, which is kind of under the mezzanine level, with its 75 taps, and that number just in itself is just like blows you away.
Yeah.
But then off to the side you've got like a smaller bar, which is more like a bar.
Yeah.
So it's less like comfy chairs, raised bar stools, all that sort of thing. It's very much a loud music. It's very much a bar area.
Yeah.
But yeah, just literally breathtaking.
It is the sheer
the
size.
size of the place. It's huge. It's absolutely huge.
Oh yeah, I mean that's what I wanted to. That's why I jumped in there, because I just remember that feeling, and I don't think that feeling ever left me all day.
No, it definitely. I don't think it left me either, because obviously we were there on a Tuesday, so Tuesday afternoon in October. There was a bit of a passing lunch trade, but largely Clayton and I had the place to ourselves until about 4 or 5 o'clock, when some people started
turning up at your bar.
Well, I was most disappointed when Logan Plant turned up from Beavertown as well.
Well, he turned up to see you anyway, didn't he?
Yes, yeah.
And if people haven't listened to the pod blast that Steve did, it's well worth a listen. Really, really did enjoy that. It was really good, and also Logan's passion for what they do at Beavertown definitely shone through as well, and what they want to do.
Yeah, I was really grateful to Logan for giving up some of his time as well, because he was there as part of an event that Stone had been running called Cantoberfest, which was all about celebrating canned beers from around the world. So it was great that they were the Beavertown were actually invited over to be part of that as well. So
great showcase for them, and that in itself sounded like a good little number. It's well worth a listen if you haven't got around to doing it. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. And just while we're talking about, I did do a little bit of work while I was there. So we do have we've got an interview with the master brewer from Stone Berlin as well, Thomas Terrell, who's again really passionate about what he does, and that will be making its way to the airwaves. I think we're going to put that out in January, when we're having a bit of a break. So he gave us some time as well.
Look forward to that.
Sit down and spoke to us about things.
Okay, so once you've gotten over the sheer size of everything and the way it's all laid out, I think you were there for it was quite a bright autumn day as well, wasn't it?
It was beautiful.
A lot of blue sky.
It was blue sky, not a cloud in the sky. The sun was out all day long. It was lovely.
That just
photogenic.
Yeah. So beers.
We managed, I think it was about 15 on the day.
It's a good show. It's a very good show in that.
It was,
but do you look at that list? It's like, where?
Yeah, we almost didn't know where to go with some of it. So at some point, we knew we had to drink the iconic Stone IPA.
Yes.
And we had also highlighted that we definitely wanted to do Ruination as well, and to also try and hit the Russian Impy Stout and barley wine that they had on as well. But my beer list literally reads, so I started off with Stone Ripper, which is it's an American pale ale which they've just started brewing in Berlin, so it's a fairly new beer, and they've just started putting it into cans as well. But it's a West Coast pale ale, and it does everything it says on the tin. It was the perfect beer to start with.
So that gives you your base to start browsing the list in a bit more detail, doesn't it?
Basically, yeah. So we hit a lot of the because they do a pilot series of beers that are just brewed, obviously at Stone Berlin. So we tried to do a lot of those, and they were all with different hops. And interestingly, all of the hops that they were brewed with were all European hops as well. So they're trying all these different variations of IPA as part of the Stone pilot series.
Okay, so really making it a European
absolutely
build for their beers.
Yeah. And when we spoke to Thomas, he did say that they have adapted some of the recipes slightly to use European ingredients as well, because they're very keen to use European ingredients.
Well, it must be more cost effective, surely, as well.
You think?
And that whole Stone ethos of they want you to have everything fresh as well. There must be some element of that in there.
Yeah,
that sounds quite good.
So while I just run through my list of IPAs, or I'm about to.
I like that list of IPAs.
Just poured the next beer, which is another one from Ampersand, and this is Hopwell. So this is a Chinook and Simcoe West Coast IPA, coming in at 6%.
Appropriate timing.
Yes, very much so.
All
Cheers.
in the planning. It's almost got a bit of a funky nose to it. I'm getting the hopped, but I'm definitely feeling a little bit of a... And I'm going to say, based on what we were talking about last week, this is coming from the yeast.
Yeah.
There's that sort of Belgian yeast strain going through it, or something very akin to it for me.
There is. It's interesting. I mean, so the yeast is a dry English yeast that they've used in this. It's interesting, obviously West Coast style, produced with an English yeast.
It just feels like it's got something running through. It's just is that sort of that little bit of funk to it.
Yeah,
it's not unpleasant.
Unfined and unfiltered bottle condition. Yeah. So it might be that with the yeast still in the bottle, it's started to play around with flavours a little bit.
Yeah, it could be quite dry actually.
It's very dry.
So, West Coast IPAs or West Coast style IPAs.
Yeah. So I'm just going to run through my list. Stone Berlin Pilot Series Session IPA, dry hopped with Hercules wet hop. Stone IPA, dry hopped with Ariana. Stone Berlin Pilot Series was Poln IPA, which we think was a Polish hop that we found. Stone IPA, the classic. Stone Ghost Hammer IPA. Stone Tangerine Express IPA. Hop Revolver IPA, hop number 4, Mandarina Bavaria. Stone 21st Anniversary Hail to the Hop Thief, double IPA. Stone Ruination, double IPA. Stone Mocha IPA. And then there were a couple of others that we threw in there as jokers. So there was the White Ghost Berliner Weiss, which again is a fairly new beer for Stone Berlin, because they wanted to produce the style that was named after the city.
Yeah.
We did Saison du Buff, aged in red and white wine barrels, which I was not a fan of. But we got that one complimentary due to Clayton's VIP membership. He gets the special that's on for free.
Yeah, I suppose this is probably a good opportunity to say the background to the trip was because crowdfunding. Or
type of crowdfunding
that Stone Berlin engaged with was basically people buying into special beers long before they were actually brewed, bottled and stored and ready to actually give away. But the big thing is you having to go and pick it up. And so you were there to help with this process as well, weren't you?
I was hired help
to basically get some rather large bottles of beer.
6 magnums,
and these were all collaboration bottles as well, weren't they?
Yeah, every single
they're
one
all
was collaboration of sorts. So yeah, there were 6 of those that Clayton needed to pick up. So we took over 2 suitcases, one inside the other, full of packaging.
Yeah.
And then obviously got there, opened them all up, packaged the beers up, got loads of cardboard from the merch store, bought a load of merch as well to help with the packaging, because of course we had to. And managed to get the 6 bottles in the 2 cases and get them all home in one piece as well. So mission accomplished as far as that.
Sounds like a good list of beers. So what would be your...
There were 2 others that I didn't mention there, which were the ones that we finished on, which we had saved for the end of the day. So we did the 2010 Russian Imperial Stout, and we did the 2007 Old Guardian Barley Wine as well as our 2 finishers for the day.
And
they were incredible. The Russian Imperial Stout was just smooth velvet in your mouth. It was just incredible. Bearing in mind that's obviously 7 years old, and then the Old Guardian Barley Wine, 10 years old. This one was as well, and obviously these are all being served on keg pour as well. It was just that was the perfect finish to the day. Even I didn't get to a point where I was IPA'd out, because I was like, I'm here to drink what this brewery is known for, which is their IPAs.
I presume you were having fairly small.
Well, the smallest pours that they did,
Yeah.
So
And they vary them slightly depending on the strength anyway.
That they do, yeah. Some of them, again, sensibly, you can only get in a certain pour.
Yeah. They changed that just for you.
Just to stop me from drinking all the Stone IPA, yeah. But no, just an incredible experience, and to think that we did it in a day as well. There was lots of sleeping on the way back. I think we got back to the airport and we slept in the departure lounge until the plane was full, and then I think we both fell asleep the minute we was on the plane as well. Got back home about 12:30, so it was almost 22 hours to do the entire round trip.
But if you're prepared to do it and it all works, you must have had about 7 hours or so at Stone.
Yeah, it was 7 hours at Stone. So yeah, we got there at 12 and we left at about 7:30 to get back to the airport.
Yeah, which is roughly the same sort of time as I spent there anyway. When I went there, I was going somewhere else. So yeah, you got a full day.
But again, if you're prepared to put the time into it, our return flights were like 36 quid return flight to Berlin. Now, you can't get very far in the UK on a train for 36 quid.
No.
So if you can do it in a way that you can do your airport transfers this side as well, that keep your costs low, you can probably actually do it for the price that you could get to Manchester or Leeds or Bristol or any other great beery destination.
I think that's the key, isn't it? It's that bit home to airport and back again, isn't it? Because I mean, obviously in the morning you could easily drive yourself to the airport, but it's getting that lift back at the end of the day, isn't it? But it's fairly late on.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
So if you can nail that side of it, because otherwise you have to start booking hotels. That sort of takes away the.
It starts making it very expensive. Yeah. But no, like I say, definitely worth doing. Absolutely great day out, best day out ever, best day trip ever. I mean, it was just so good, and to drink of all of those beers that I had, to sit in the autumn sunshine drinking a fresh Stone IPA.
How good was that?
It was heaven for the very small amount of time that beer spent in my glass. It was the most perfect of moments.
It's one of those moments where you just sort of stop.
Yeah, just stop and just let the world just pass you by.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying. No, when I went there, it was an August day. It was pissing it down in the morning, but it brightened up in the afternoon. You get all that sunshine coming in, and you just stand there thinking, oh, "This is all right. This is good. This is a good place to drink beer."
Yeah, and like I say, keep an ear out for the interview with Thomas, because we talk about the brewery itself and how the local community have taken to it, and also Stone's approach to brewing beer and their approach to, also interestingly, because I had to ask the question of, in the modern age of brewing the New England style of beers, Stone have continued to brew West Coast styles, and he answered that question as well. So, and you're only going to get to hear that on that podcast.
No spoilers here.
No spoilers here. So while I was off enjoying myself in Germany, you were preparing for your own trip, wasn't you?
Yeah. So Michael and myself had decided we were going to have our first big holiday away together. So that's my son. and we had decided to go to Phoenix, Arizona. And aside from the fact it was hot, so let's just take that as read. Every day was around 30, 32, somewhere between 32 and 35. Well, the good beer turned up straight away. Really, we got to the hotel, checked in. We were on. It was probably about, in our heads, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning with the flights and stuff. But I wanted us to get onto the old timeline as soon as possible, so we didn't waste days. And from the tram back from the airport, it was night time, so I kept my eyes open and stuff, and I'd seen this thing saying craft beer garden. I said, oh, that looks good. And Michael's rolling his eyes already at me. Oh, Dad.
You've been in the country half an hour.
And you spotted it.
Yeah.
And it turns out it was 2 minutes away from the hotel.
Oh, fantastic.
So I said, well, let's go and have a look and see what the food's like, that kind of thing. Turned out they had a menu which suited us both as well. And it wasn't too busy for a Saturday night, so that was right. And turns out they had this like a wall of beer, which was basically self-service taps.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, first of all, it was like, what? Self-service taps? Loved the idea of that, first of all. And basically what you do is you hand over your card, your credit or debit card. They give you another card which works with their readers at each tap. So it's 1 tap, 2 taps per 1 reader. And basically you then get a glass from the fridge beside it, and you can fill up your glass for as little or as much as you like on the beer you're having, and the screen in front of you will tell you exactly how much it's costing you as it's going up.
Brilliant.
Don't ask me how much I was having on all of the pours, because it was in fluid ounces.
Yeah.
So I was struggling with that bit, so I was just going by sights really. And so then, based purely on the fact of one of the beers you'd had at Stone, I went for Stone Tangerine Express IPA when I was there. Really nice.
Yeah.
That sort of pippy orange really
came through. It comes through. It really did come through, yeah.
But not so it ever got to that too cloying sweet.
It wasn't like it was orange juice.
No.
It was there as a flavour.
Yeah, and I found there was a few, and I might mention them, there was a few like that in the States. They really seem to like using the orange, and especially seemingly the tangerine as well, but get the balance just spot on. Mm-hmm. So that was a nice little, apart from anything, it was novelty. So they had 28 taps. I think 2 of them were for wine, the other 26 were beer. And that was it. So it was just, basically it was American beers.
Yeah.
And most of them, I think they had a couple of dark ones, but most of them were either pales or IPAs. So pretty happy with that. Still hot. Dived into that. That was a good start. Where the hotel was in Phoenix, we were on a tram line, so that worked out really well. So we were able to go from downtown where we were in Phoenix to uptown, all on the tram line, which cost $4 a day for a pass. Nothing, $4 a day. Even with the rubbish exchange rate, it's nothing. But we were also able to go to what you'd class as, to coin a phrase from the Midlands show, Greater Arizona. So we were able to go to the next place, to Scottsdale, Temp. And to other places, and use the buses, still all for this $4.
Wow, that's such good value, isn't it?
Yeah, it made it easy. It was a no-brainer. You just buy the ticket and then you don't think about it. So we ended up, there was loads of breweries. So what I did was I actually used our tap while I was there. We can do that nearby events, nearby venues.
Yeah. And
so many of them have got themselves as verified venues. So I was using those to find out where places were. So I'd done a bit of research before, but the research was done not really based on knowing exactly where I was in relation to anything. So I found a few other places, and I've done a few Instagram posts, but I'll just highlight a couple of them. One of them was a bar called King's. Oh, it's King's Beer and Wine Convenience, which didn't really sell it. It was like, okay, well that's just a bit of a store.
Yeah.
But turned out it was beer and wine and soda. To use the American phrases, in a wonderful, well-stocked, well-stacked shop, and next door was one of the best tap rooms I've seen, but a tap room attached to a bottle shop. So not a brewery tap room, but a tap room nonetheless. And you could do your growler fills. They had 50 taps for that, but then when you went into the tap room, they had another 6 taps for nitro stouts as well.
Nitro stouts into your growler?
No, they wouldn't do that into the growler, so that's why they had that separate there. Yeah. So you could buy the nitro stout, but that wasn't for growler fill. And so, and they had old style board games, they had Jenga, and they also had a SNES as well.
Brilliant.
So Michael was quite happy then. he was fine with this one. And also Larry's Burgers, who are 3 doors down, 3 doors, will deliver. If you phone them up, they had the menus on the table. If you phone them up, they would deliver, which I thought was brilliant. So you don't even have to leave and go 3 doors to get it.
Yeah.
They would deliver it, and they were more than happy for you to eat it in there. I think they've only been open since April this year. One of the guys behind there is a qualified Cicerone. They just had some fantastic pours available, and that's where one of the places where I tried the Stone. Is it End by, Live by, Die by, 31st of October.
Oh yeah.
So obviously the inspiration for Brewdog, and that was nice. I mean, I was on end of life, but still tasting nice.
It must have still been tasting.
It was tasting
fairly good though.
And then I tasted it in the bottle, and it was even better because the bottle just had that little bit more sharpness to it, and that was tasting really good in the bottle. Did the flights like anywhere else? So it was really good. And again, it was 4 stops on the tram from where we were in the hotel. Popped into one brewery who had a fantastically big space. I mean, not stone space, but still, compared to over here, very, very big area. That is very popular for beer and food and stuff. And again, I was in hot weather, so shorts and t-shirt. You're able to sit outside, sit inside. In fact, actually, me and Michael made a point of sitting inside at most places anyway. So we were going, it's too hot. Even though everyone else was going, you've come at the right time, it's not so hot now. Yeah, it is. It's still hot. And so one of the other highlights for me was I went on a canyon railroad journey. And I've been looking for them. I've been to the States twice before, and I've never been on the railroad. And as much as I bitch about commuting on trains, I actually love the look of American trains with their big engines and their big carriages. They just look, I think, really good, especially in the sunshine. And there's another canyon called the Third Canyon, which is on the way to the Grand Canyon. And they have a train journey which goes for about 4 hours out and back. And the only way you get the views of this canyon is to go on the railroad. I thought, well, that'd be something different. That's all right. So I did a bit more research. And then during October, it turns out they have a little beer festival before it starts. So if you, rather than getting there for 12:30 for a 12:45 departure, you get there at 11, get your glass. So it's a American pint-sized glass, which I think is a 16 fluid ounce or something, so probably closer to 2/3. 5 tokens. You can have 5 beers, or you can use all 5 and just have a full pint. I thought, well, I'm not going to do that. What they have is they have a taster line on the glass, so you can get the best of both worlds. So perfect for me. So, and they over-poured every single pour anyway. Tried some fantastic beers there as well, and all of them, and this is the other thing I want to make a point about, everywhere I went to bar one place, which was the local bowling alley, which still had some good beers, had beers from Arizona.
So it was all local.
They had,
as well,
at a minimum, they had a local offering, and that included places like the Hard Rock Cafe, who I thought might just have the big boys on, which they did, but then they had 4 beers from one other brewery as well. It was like, this is good, and they were only 5 miles away from where the Hard Rock Cafe was. So that's for me, that's fairly local. So I was really impressed with that as well. Even when we went to the Grand Canyon, there's a Grand Canyon brewery, and they had a beer from them available. So they didn't just offer you the stuff they could buy in cheaper and in bulk. I was able to try Arizona beers all the way through the break. It was fantastic. But there was one beer which stood out: West Coast style IPA, Dragoon IPA, which I had in a shopping centre. A shopping centre which had a bar with, well, it actually has more taps than Stone in it, called the Yard House, and it's in a shopping centre. So I'd been given a list by Michelle, my girlfriend, to do a bit of Christmas shopping, okay? And this involved going into shops I would never normally go into. And, me and Michael said, right, let's get this done. Let's go in like military operation. Here's the list. We need people to help us. Can you help us get the stuff? I need a drink now. Found the bar, 4.25%, 4.25 out of 5. Oh, yeah, 4.25 out of 5. I gave this beer. It was just the perfect beer at the perfect time. Brilliant. And fresh as anything. So, loads of other beers were tried, but it was just one of those moments in time where it was like the perfect moment to have that beer after not being able to find everything we wanted. But then we finished it, done, ready to have a drink now.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it's a completely different culture, isn't it, to beer in the States.
Yep.
It's massive, and it's everywhere, and that shopping centre experience almost echoes mine a little bit when I went to Florida and walked into the supermarket and just found the first 4-pack.
I did. I took the supermarket option as well, and I bought you some back, and that was all from the supermarket, from a Safeway.
It's just amazing, isn't it? Just walking into the supermarket and seeing the beers that are on a supermarket shelf. I mean, we rave about what we can get in Tesco's now, but you walk into a supermarket in the States and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that's where I picked up the Stone from there, but also, and ironically, I went into 3 or 4 what I'd class as either very good stores or bottle shops, and even in the Grand Canyon general store, they had a very, very good selection of beers you could get, but they only had one English brewery, as far as I could spot. There was only one English brewery, and that was Samuel Smith's.
Oh, really?
Yes. They had, in the Grand Canyon Central Store, they had 4 different beers from Samuel Smith's in Tadcaster.
Is that because it's the most English brewery they could find, do you think?
Quite possibly,
because it would
some of the
tick
most
the tourist box.
With some of the most English labels you're going to find as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It's
so
quintessentially English, isn't it? Samuel Smith's?
But yeah, the fact that I could get a local beer offering nearly anywhere, pizza place, Hard Rock Cafe. I said even the bowling alley, but the bowling alley still had Sam Adams Oktoberfest beer, and it was nice to taste Sam Adams beer brewed in the US, Lagunitas IPA. So there was still some good beer offerings even there, but everywhere else had an Arizona beer.
That's brilliant, isn't it? You can't ask for much more than that.
God, I mean that really...
That kind of drink local thing.
Even
about
in the hotel they had some available.
Yeah.
So you can't really complain at that, can you? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the holiday itself wasn't all about beer. Just to add a disclaimer in there, Michael did get to do some stuff he wanted to do now and again.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that I didn't actually have to plan that hard to find those beery treats was probably the highlight.
You don't know, do you? No. That's the thing. You absolutely don't have to in the States because it's everywhere.
Yeah, and I thought the prices were okay as well.
Yeah. So just while we're finishing up there, we've obviously finished off the Ampersand Hopwell.
Yeah.
Final thoughts on that?
I think I still found that little bit of what I would class as a belted yeast.
Sweet, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a bit sweet, but it was still really nice and drinkable. If I had to choose out the first 2, now that we switched from the first 2 bottles to a can, I would definitely have drunk more of the Kolsch than the second beer.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I don't know whether the Hopwell has suffered from maybe being a little bit older than maybe you'd want to drink it. Maybe that fresh, the yeast wouldn't have had chance to do its job in there.
Quite possibly,
it might be a completely different beer.
Yeah.
But a little sweet for my liking for a West Coast style.
Yeah.
But as I say, fairly drinkable.
Yeah, it didn't quite have that sharpness. And I suppose at the moment we've both got very recent memories of having
really sharp
West Coast style IPAs.
Yeah. So talking of IPAs, and obviously listeners would have heard us cracking open the cans in the background. We're now moving on to some beers, or a beer from Grain Brewery. Now this is Lignum Vitae, which is a 6.5% IPA that's been lagered as well. So it's a lagered IPA in a can from another brewery in Norfolk. So Grain have been around since 2006 as, again, a small brewery based in Norfolk. They started off by purchasing the kit that belonged to Castle Rock, who I think are based in Nottingham. And they've always been very focused on again, local produce going into their beers. So Obviously, there's a lot of Marisotta grown in the region, and that gave the inspiration for the name of the brewery being Grain. Simple as that. The beer Lignum Vitae. Most of the beers are named after trees, or have tree-based names, and the one that we're drinking here, Lignum Vitae, means tree of life. So,
okay, just to be clear, I would never have known that.
I would never know that. Facts every week. In fact, there's one for Miles for a future episode of the Twab quiz on a Tuesday evening. Their first beer was 3.8% bitter called Oak, and to this day remains their best seller. In 2010 they opened up their first pub, The Plough, in St Benedict Street in Norwich, which is also kind of one of their tap rooms, and I've been there.
Is that the one you've been to?
That's the one I went to, yeah. Lovely little bar, lovely little setup in there. Let's give the Grain Lignum Vitae a try. This is a beer that we've both had before.
We have both had it before, yeah.
Very
Loads of toffee and caramel, isn't it?
I was going to say caramel on the nose. A little bit of pine resin in there as well.
Oh, that has definitely got that sweetness of the caramel straight away, hasn't it? Caramel. I've had this on cask, and I had it back in September at the Chapel Beer Fest, and that was a 3.75 out of 5, and I wrote down lovely English IPA. So at the moment, it feels a different beer to me out of the can, but maybe I just need to see how it develops while we get onto your beery adventure number 2.
Well, just before we do that, I've also had this on cask.
Okay.
I had it at the Chelmsford Summer Beer Festival, and I'd said it like citrus and toffee at that point as well, but I gave it 3.5. But yes, again, it does feel like a very different beer in the can. Don't know whether it's the can, or I don't know whether the fact that it's been lagered.
Who knows? But then I would have expected less of the toffee, but
I would have done, but we'll work our way through that. So my next one on my list is a new tap room opened up in Chelmsford called the Molson Tap, serving. I think they've got 12 lines in there as well, all served through key keg.
okay.
A few of us went down to, as you have to, sample the new local wares.
When you say a few, you mean you, Clayton,
and Mr. Chinnery,
half-pint gents.
Yes, went down one Friday evening. Great little space. Probably needs a bit of life bringing to it because it's all very clean and very new at the moment. But obviously that will change with age.
Mm-hmm.
There was an interesting clientele came in and out throughout the evening. We were in there on a Friday night.
Yeah.
We got in there fairly early, sort of 5:30ish, and it was very much an after-work crowd. That then changed to people that were just passing and maybe popping in for a quick drink, which then changed to people that were clearly popping in for a drink before going out into Chelmsford proper. Because where the Molson Tap is, it's in Molson Street, which is it's a good 20-minute walk from the station.
But it's the start of the walk to other bars and clubs, isn't it?
Back into the centre of town. Yeah, it's kind of down near the cricket ground.
Yeah.
For people that know Chelmsford. Every beer that we had in there was tasting great. Would suggest that maybe the one thing that may change in there over time is their pricing. Because we were drinking pints of 8% double IPA for $4.50 a pint, which was probably the reason why we were all hanging
on the Saturday
following morning because we were nailing that like it was going out of fashion. Anyway, moving on rapidly. So what was your next little adventure?
So my next little adventure is when I came back from Phoenix. I'd already purchased a ticket, and it seems that Clayton's getting a lot of mentions here. But he's very good. He shares. So not only did you went to Stone with him, he went to Molson Tap with you. He came to the Victoria Inn Home Brew Festival that took place on the first Saturday of November. So this is where they have basically you buy a ticket. So you're buying the beer from the Victoria Inn because they've already sorted out that with the home brewers because they're not selling because they're not professional brewers, they're not commercial. They have 15 beers available. You get voucher for 12, but if you sign up for one of the tutored tastings and get the right free beers, you have free beers on the tutored tasting, you can cover all 15 beers. So that's what we did. And the tutored tasting you had to pay for anyway.
Okay.
So you can work it.
Yeah.
And it's 12 quid for the ticket, so, and they give you food as well, which I forgot to have. I was focused on the beer. And I suppose what I need to say is that, again, anyone who brews a home brew, I always think that's just magic. And despite what one of the guys, Michael from the Essex Bottle Share, saying that anyone can brew a beer, if you can make porridge, you can make a beer. Still not convinced I could make a beer from scratch. So I always admire what they do. And while some of them weren't to my palate, there was a few really malty, brown, twiggy brown beers. I use the word brown twice here, I know, because they were very brown. And me and Clayton perhaps suffered from the fact that we didn't probably pick our order very well. The scorecard and the programme were slightly out of sync. So we did end up back-ending a lot of the brown beers, which we probably needed to have earlier on or spaced out better.
Get them out of the way.
Yeah.
Get them all out of the way at the beginning.
But there were some beers that were up around the 4 mark. And we're talking home brews here as well. So, there was a Nimius Plus from a guy called Keith Bailey, and it was described as a New England IPA. Now, we've obviously had many discussions about this, but this is a home brewer, and Richard, who was one of the guys who shared the podcast with Andy when we did the Sparklers debate a little while back, just brought it over to us early on and said, what do you think of this beer? So that's pretty good. I said, what do you think it is? And I hadn't really looked at the menu. I said, I don't know. He said, it reminds me of Cloudwater, to be honest. He said, that's one of the home brews. So, whether if you're judging it on style, it was really very close to a lot of the Cloudwater beers I'd had recently. 6.3% New England IPA, and this was got by a guy doing home brews. Richard said to me, he said, well, look, we could sell that. We could put it on the keg tab, because it was a keg beer. Not all the home brews were cast. 12 were on gravity and 3 were key keg. And he said we could sell that for $5 a time.
Wow. I mean, that speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Exactly. And
the standard of the beer being produced.
I've now been this was the 6th iteration of the festival, and I've been to 3 of them. And I missed out year 1 and 2, went to 3 and 4, missed out last year, and I'd say I haven't had a year off in between. For some of them, there was a real increase in the standard as well, and these guys are producing some really good beers. Some of them have no interest in stepping it up, but I do know that friend of the show, Beer O'Clock Show especially, Ollie Watts had entered that competition before, and our friend from Essex Bottle Share, Mark Watson, entered it last year. So there are people who enter this competition, and others like it, who then perhaps get the confidence from it and then go, okay, I'll tell you what, for whatever reason, I'm gonna go for it. Whether that be because, like in Mark's thing, because he was retiring, this was going to become a hobby which became something more, or like with Ollie, it was a change of direction. But people, they can gain confidence from these things. And the Victorian, as people know, I've got a real love for that pub, and the guys who run it and own it really know what they're talking about as well. So they're really supportive of these kind of things as well. Lovely afternoon in there. Wasn't too packed, but it was a nice turnover of people. So they were getting lots of different opinions about the beers. You do a scorecard, you put a few comments, they collate them all, they collect them, and so that they can, they feed it back to the brewers at the end of it as well. So, I mean, that was one of the real standouts, that New England IPA. But it's just nice. It was a bit of a contrast as well, because I've been really spoiled with the old West Coast style IPAs and some lovely porters and stuff like that. To come back and have some very nice cask beers, but just home brews, it's really, really quite nice. I really did enjoy that festival, and I will endeavour to make sure I can be free when it comes up again next year.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would have liked to have gone, but I was elsewhere in the country.
Yes. Weren't you just?
At the time, yeah, which we'll come on to in a second. How are you finding the beer? Because I've found, actually, since it's sat in the grass a little bit, it's begun to soften a little bit.
It's like I said, my original description was lovely English IPA, and that English IPA is starting to come through, because I know that a lot of people will say that the sweetness of the caramel is part of it, but for me, I'm quite happy to start losing that. The dryness is coming through a bit more now for me, and I'm starting to get a bit more of that hops, English hops.
It is sweet, and yeah, it's very English, and I can see why I think we've both enjoyed this on cask so much, because actually this is a really good cask beer.
Yes.
I'm not sure the package has done anything for it.
I think it's perhaps, well, for us anyway, because we're both similar in this, it's probably extenuated the elements which we're not so keen on.
Yeah, I think so.
That real sweetness. I mean, there's none of that twigginess going on, so, but that sweetness is the predominant things. Even still, and I'm halfway through as well now.
Okay, so while we continue to drink the Lignum Vitae, I will jump back into my next little trip.
So this was when I was at the Homebrew Festival.
I was, yeah. I spent a ridiculous amount of time on trains getting to Leeds because I just had to go to Dark City to experience it. And I'm glad I did, I've got to say. So Dark City was the counterpart to Hop City, which Northern Monk hosted earlier on in the year, and this was a celebration of dark beers. So we're talking black IPAs, stouts, imperial stouts, porters, anything that was dark that didn't fit into that hoppy category. And it was great. It was, but weird at the same time.
So this was held at the Northern Monk Refectory as well.
This was at the Refectory as well. Met up with Wayne and Janice, who had come over for it as well. The Irish beer snobs had come over for it. Saw loads of other people while we were there. But yeah, just really weird being at a festival that was exclusively dark beer.
No, I bet it was.
Because it was very difficult to kind of choose where you were going to go next with your beers. So
did they have any sort of sessionable dark beers, or was it all on the big end?
It was all on the big end. They worked out they did a thing across the programme and worked out the average ABV of beers for that festival was 9%.
Just for the benefit of listeners, when I was at the Victoria Homebrew Festival, it definitely was not that high. I reckon the average was probably about 4.1.
Yeah. There were a few on the lower end. There were a couple of 6%ers in there, but mostly everything was imperial or barrel aged.
So what did you have as a palate cleanser?
I didn't. You
didn't palate cleanse?
Just stayed dark. Well, actually, no. I say I didn't. I tell a lie. I did because I went in, and this may shock a few listeners. I went straight for cask because they had Old Chimney's Good King Henry on cask. So that was my first beer.
They had that at the Colchester Winter or Summer Festival as well on cask, and I did exactly the same thing because I talked myself into it. What if it runs out?
Well, I went in, that was my first beer, 9% cask imperial stout. 5 minutes later it kicked.
There you go.
And I was completely justified in my opening decision.
Yes.
And then I stayed predominantly, well, you can't do anything else. Well, I stayed predominantly dark. I went because I spent most of the day in the taproom floor of the refectory. So for people that have been there, it's got 3 levels. Ground level is the small batch brewery as it is now. Middle level is the taproom, and then you've got an event space upstairs. So we stayed predominantly in the taproom space. Popped upstairs to speak to a few people, and saw Chris Hall from Brew by Numbers, who took my empty glass off me and said, "Here, you've got to try this," and whipped out from behind his keg machine a Powell beer, which was their, I think it was 08 white stout, and literally, in a blind tasting, you would not have known this beer wasn't dark.
White stout still messing my head.
This one was the most stouty white stout I've ever had.
Just weird, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but that was the only light coloured beer I had.
But was still
that day.
Dark influenced almost.
It was still dark influenced. Yeah.
I just thought I'd have a quick look. Yeah, it was the Good King Henry Russian Imperial Stout that I had at the Colchester Winter Ale Festival, and I've written on here, first beer at the festival.
I think sometimes you've just got to.
And I've just written down, cracker, smooth, doesn't give away its booziness, give it 4.25. Because I just thought I've got to get it, because if I had seen it go off...
That was my worry.
You don't see it very often, do you?
No, and certainly you don't see a cask version of it in Leeds.
No. So that's, I know you said it, but I would have done exactly the same thing you did. So was there any other standouts?
There were a couple of standouts. I had the Marble have done a collaboration with Fuller's to recreate the Gow's Old Ale. And they've barrel aged it in a number of different barrels as well. So they had the bourbon version on, and it was fucking incredible. It was.
In my head, I'm just thinking it's just really smooth.
It was smooth and tart and bourbon, and it was what I needed at the time that I had it, because it broke up all the dark,
all the proper dark beers.
But the absolute standout of the festival for me, which I gave 5 on Untapped. Now I know I throw them out more than you do, but that's not. To be fair, that's not difficult.
I
know, but I don't throw them out willingly
unless it's a cannibal.
This was a cherry Belgian quad by Legitimate Industries.
Yes, and I was shocked.
10.6%.
I was shocked, but it looked lovely in the glass.
Cask.
Was it cask?
It was cask.
I picked up on that.
It was the cask beer.
Really?
And mate, it was fucking incredible. It was like drinking smooth cherryade. It was just everything that I wanted. And I think it was the last beer that I had before we left there. And
perfect.
it was stunning.
Perfect.
It was just brilliant.
So what was the atmosphere like? Was it busy? Was it noisy? What was the music like?
It was busy, but not crowded. There was a nice buzz in both of the rooms. Music was maybe slightly above background, but what they had done, that they had matched the music perfectly to the theme of the event, because it was all kind of rock and heavy metal that was playing, because on Saturday evening they had live local metal bands playing upstairs as well. There was, I suppose, the one difference between that and Hop City, because obviously I popped into Hop City for an hour as well, was it didn't feel to me like Hop City very much felt like people were there for the hype beers.
What,
they wanted the big ticks.
Your big US New England style IPAs.
Yeah, everybody wanted the big hop hitting beers. This didn't feel like people were there for the hype. It felt like people were there because they wanted to try some of the best dark beers that are being produced in the UK right now. So yeah, I mean, it was brilliant, and hats off to the organisers again, because they nailed it. It was something like 15 quid for the ticket in. You got a glass for that, and then it was like 20 quid for 8 tokens. And to be fair, 8 tokens were enough on a 4-hour session.
Well, especially with some of those beers you've name checked already.
Yeah, I don't think there were many that I drank that were. In fact, I don't think I dipped below 8% while I was there on what I was drinking.
It did sound really good. Sound really good. That's good. So if you had to choose next year and you could only go to one, Hop City or Dark City?
I'd go to Dark City.
Yeah,
I would choose that every time. Just because part of me is done with this hype in beer. I'm just so over it now. And I just like the more laid back. It wasn't like there were people scrambling to get cans of the big US beers that were there. People were just happy to, beer's gone, well, what else is there?
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Yeah.
Like I said, did sound good.
And I mean, it was to the point where there were so many that I was trying to get in the short amount of time that I was there. I even missed the opportunity to have Kentucky Common Grounds again from Magic Rock that was on.
Okay, but at least you'd had it once before.
I know, but I wanted it again.
Well, I can understand that. It was it's an awesome beer.
Yeah. But then And I'll go straight into my next one because it was on the same day.
Well, it was an hour later.
Yeah, we went from Dark City to Magic Rock tap room. So it was an interesting train journey. Janice was by no way annoying on the train at all, asking, "Are we there yet?" every couple of seconds.
It's only 20 minutes.
On a packed train.
But it's only 20 minminutes.
I know it's only 20 minutes. It felt like an hour. And yeah, went to Magic Rock Tap Room, which had a nice vibe to it when we first got there because Huddersfield had been playing at home that day, so it still had some of the after game crowd in as well. And clearly Magic Rock have got that sorted as well because they've got security on their main gate, and then there's kind of a not a ticket system so much, but kind of very much a queuing system.
No. They'd heard about you and the beer snobs turning up.
Possibly.
Security were hired for one day only.
Yeah.
But that's a good idea though. I mean, you know, because Magic Rock have a beer at the ground, don't they?
Well, they've got two now. Yeah,
they've got two. I thought it was just the one.
No, they've got a cask bitter called Hat Trick, and then they've got a lager called Promised Land.
Okay.
As well, which
Promised Land, Premier League, Hat Trick. Yeah. Oh, I like football themed beers. Perfect.
It will happen one day. So yeah, got there, made my way to the bar. There were 5 of us. I ordered 5 pints of Cannibal. It seemed like the obvious.
What did the others have?
And yeah, after all of the dark beers,
I bet that first Cannibal
didn't stand the glass very long.
Because so the last beer was that cherry beer. So let's see, Northern Monk back to the train station. Maybe a little bit of waiting time. The train.
There were no train beers because there just wasn't room on the train for them.
But I reckon there was an hour in between, roughly.
Easily, yeah.
So that first pint of Cannibal
was beautiful, as it always is from the tap room.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, so we had a couple of pints of Cannibal to start with. Went through a few other beers. I think I had a Common Grounds, and then I had tried the Hat Trick as well, which was, you know, exactly what you want from a 3.8% bitter. Absolutely perfect.
Nice to step down a little bit as well.
Yeah. Great food on offer as well. There was they were doing kind of grilled cheese sandwiches, which was their street food offering, and I had a grilled cheese sandwich that had pulled pork and mac and cheese in the sandwich. Yeah.
I had a great mac and cheese in Arizona, so I know we came back to that.
No, it's fine.
It was fantastic. It was like the metal bowls you get in the Indian restaurants. You like, and it comes on the hot plate. It was like exploding out of this metal bowl. This one that Michael had, and so I said, "Is there anywhere we need to go back to before we leave?" And he said, "Yeah, I want to try the mac and cheese again." And they did one with chicken, which he had, but they did one with jalapenos, which I had. And I have to admit, he was right.
It's almost a perfect beer food. Mac and cheese.
Brilliant with food. It was brilliant with the beer.
I actually had, funny story, when we was in Stone, because I'm a really fussy eater, I didn't really get on with the menu, so I had the mac and cheese from the kids' menu. And I think they did me an adult portion of it because it was quite a big bowl, but it was perfect. I just think mac and cheese is the perfect beer food.
I think it's because you've got the pasta bulking you out, which you need a bit of filling.
Yeah.
But we all know how good cheese and beer goes.
Perfect. Yeah.
And they've melted it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, my trip to Leeds was pretty much perfect. I got to drink an afternoon. I got
drank an afternoon.
I drank an afternoon.
Pint of, please.
Yeah. Dark beers all afternoon, and then got to go to my church and worship at the altar.
And it's been a little while since you've been there, isn't it?
It's been a while since I've been to Magic Rock now.
So it must have been quite nice rocking up there.
It was nice going back and just enjoying the atmosphere and seeing it kind of post match day as well.
Yeah.
There's a real buzz in there.
Oh, I bet there's probably a whole buzz around.
And you can really see how they're beginning to bring that beer community around in Huddersfield.
Did you meet up with anyone else there?
Bumped into Rob from Hopzine at Dark City. Connor was around as well. Saw Ross from Beer Nomicon as well. So there were a few faces around. Yeah.
Oh, cool. I mean, it sounded like a good combination of a day.
I would wholly recommend it to anyone next year, though. If you see those Dark City tickets come up, get them booked.
Before we get on to some more beery adventures, final thoughts on Grain? The sweetness has tailed off for me.
It got easy to drink.
But it's still, for me, it's not the same beer as the cask beer I had a couple of months ago.
No, I think the cask version of it's better.
Yeah.
Which is strange because, you very rarely see a cask IPA.
No, and very rarely do you say a cask version is better.
That's true.
As well. Yeah. So, for me, it was like, I think on cask, it just feels that bit better balanced.
Well, we've gone from one thing that the listeners aren't used to hearing me say, which is I prefer the cask version of that.
Which is shocking in itself.
And now we're going to have a saison.
Yeah, a grapefruit and green tea saison, 7.1%. So quite strong for a saison.
I've got to say, half of that description troubles me.
Well, which bit didn't? To be honest. This is from Ampersand. It's their Farmhand, so appropriately named. And again, unfined, unfiltered, bottle conditioned. Let's see what this one's like.
Cheers. Funky on the nose.
True, but it's not unpleasant funky on the nose.
It's not. The grapefruit's there, and I don't know what green tea smells like, but I'm assuming there's an aroma in there that would lend itself to the smell of green tea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of green tea. I love a mug of tea, but green tea doesn't kick for me at all. I actually think that's quite nice.
Actually, it is. That's not offensive in any way.
Do you know what? The original funky doesn't really come through on the flavour, does it?
It doesn't. It softens right out on that flavour, and what you get is a beer that's akin to the ones that we tried last week, the classic saisons.
Yeah, and that's
right there.
Doesn't taste like the 7.1. That's actually quite dangerous.
You could ruin yourself on that.
Yeah, that's a really good beer. That it's really good. That initial, loving that.
Right, let's finish this roundup, mate, because I'm sure people are fed up talking about the amazing beers that we've drunk over the last few weeks.
Yeah, so I went to Amsterdam the weekend just gone. Got back yesterday. This is the annual boys trip. I say boys, we're all in our 40s.
You did Dublin last year, didn't you?
Yeah, it was Dublin last year.
Prior to that, you spent many years at Butlins.
Spent many years at Butlins drinking beer out of plastic glasses. So we decided to branch out. And this year it was Amsterdam. And I've been to Amsterdam quite a few times. I work for a Dutch company. I've been to Amsterdam before I worked there. I like Amsterdam quite a lot. Apart from not trying to get knocked over by bicycles and trams all the time, it's lovely. We did our usual. We're having a catch up. We do a bit of mix bars that everyone likes, but also I do throw in a few. Let's see if we can find a few little small places and things like that. And we did. And we went to this place, which I'm not even going to try and pronounce, so don't even ask me. And
is this the place that you got the special badge for?
Yes.
You
said, what's that?
Yeah. You've been to the what now?
And they had Jaipur on cask.
No way.
Yes. So I went all the way to Amsterdam
to drink Jaipur. You're a legend.
And I saw it there, and Carl said, "Have you seen it?" I said, "Yep." What are we having? I said, well, Jaipur. I don't actually get to have it on cask very often. I tell you, when they had it on Gravity, they just had the cask was on the bar.
Oh, okay. So actually, Gravity poured Jaipur.
Yes.
And how was it?
It was on cracking form actually. Because I thought, okay, I'm still going to go for it. And I thought, but it's not through a hand pump, so it's just purely on Gravity.
Sparkler.
Or sparkler or creamer.
Which is how Jaipur should be said.
Stop. But no, it was on cracking form. So much so that one bloke said, "Oh, that's lovely." In our group, I'll have another one of those, and went to sleep in the corner. But that wasn't just
before or after his second one. Or during?
Maybe during the second one, but that may not have been just due to the beer. But that's a different statement. And again, full disclosure, I did not partake in any other substances other than beer. I don't need anything else because I followed that up with the Creek 100% Lambic BO from Cantillon, which they had on tap as well. I've never had Cantillon on tap.
Okay, so
I don't think I have, because I think even I know I might have had the original, one of the original versions, but I've fairly certain even at the Cantillon brewery, it's always out of the bottle. So they had it on tap, and I spoke to one of the guys there. He said, "Well, whenever we get a chance to buy Cantillon, we just get it straight away. We'll just buy it. No words about it." And then I followed that with a Garage Beer Co. No Country Imperial Double Stout at 10%, which was bloody delicious, and that's from Barcelona.
sounds like a perfect trio of beers almost.
Yep. And then I had pints of Heineken.
Well done. Well done on completely ruining that experience.
But what I will add, and I had a very, very brief Twitter conversation about that today, is that the Heineken we had and the bar we had at the Grasshopper was banging. It was tasting nice. It was served at almost like the perfect temperature, not that too cold. So still had some work going on, some stuff going on. The 3 pints actually went down really well. It was really nice stuff. Did the Heineken experience. So I've been to Ampersand many times, never done the Heineken experience.
Was it good?
It is good. You know, we did the Guinness one earlier this year. There's not much about the beer. A bit like Guinness, there wasn't much about Guinness, was there?
That's more about the brand, isn't it?
Heineken the same.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure who came up with their way of doing it first of all, but it's very similar. The building again was beautiful, lovely to go through. Some of the old, the copper tons, things like that. The malt kilns, also the stables, things like that. That was all really nice. You got 3 pours of Heineken during the tour, 1 halfway through, 2 at the end, and they had a wild, used the word wild a little bit in inverted commas, a wild yeast version of Heineken called H41, which had a bit of a funky nose going on. Not many people seem to be going for that. I did. New beer, new tick, new venue. What can I do? I had to have it.
It's ticking all the boxes, literally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Took a picture.
Yeah.
Trying to get as many badges as possible. It was nice. It was, it was quite nice for me because it was something a little bit different to just having the Heineken. But yeah, what's good? It is basically, as I read later on, it's a 2-hour advert. It is about the brand.
But that's what Guinness was.
Yeah. It's completely about the brand.
Yeah.
But it was a good experience. It was €16 for the experience, or you could upgrade it to another sort of 25 euros and have a canal tour and go up the Amsterdam Tower, which was like 10, 12 floors up near the central station, lovely views over the city. So yeah, €25 we did that as well. And we had and they had Lagunitas up there. I did suspect we'd have Lagunitas available to us in various places, as Heineken have a large share in it. Yeah. So I thought, well, okay, I can give up Heineken now and again because I'm going to get something else. And I think Heineken have a craft beer brand called Brand.
How was the Lagunitas tasting?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm not... The one I had at the Tower was not as nice as the one I had in the bowling alley in Phoenix. It felt a bit sweeter.
Brewed in Europe or?
Don't know, couldn't find that much detail out from where we were. But yeah, it did taste that little bit sweeter, not quite as sharp as the Lagunitas I had. But yeah, again, I think everyone has an impression of Amsterdam and what it is. It's the trams, it's the canals, it's the red light district, it's the coffee shops. There are plenty of other places to go to in Amsterdam, and you can find those little bars, those really small places like you can in Brussels and Bruges. And one place I did find was through Untapped, and I actually said to the guy, look, found it purely on Untapped, and he goes, thanks for letting me know, because we do pay quite a lot for that, so it's quite nice to know it works. I said, definitely worked. Let's talk about the beer.
Well, that's interesting, because just jumping back to the Mulch and Tap, they've only been open a matter of weeks, and they launched as a verified venue on Untapped. So clearly they've done their research into what that can bring them in terms of trade and everything that it offers them as part of what they're paying for there.
I think it's a good idea. Like I said, it works really well for finding things. So I built my Ampersand and 80 Beers book, but that's a bit cumbersome. And also with the app, with the Untapped app, shows you where it is, links you to Google Maps. Google Maps tells you it's 2 minutes, takes you around a 10-minute journey, but you still get there eventually. You just get a nice little bit of a walk as well.
And brilliantly, have you noticed with Untapped now Twitter's gone up to 280 characters, you're still only getting to type in up to 140 on Untapped, but when it pushes to Twitter, it now has everything. So it tags in the location, and it's actually, I want Untapped to stay at 140, because what that other 140 gives me is all of that other detail that I want to appear in the check-in.
Because I always used to get annoyed when you used to then click on the link, it says then you have to sign in. But I'm signed in because I'm on the app.
Yeah.
But because it was going through Twitter, it was like going through the website. So that's a pain in the arse. But yeah, I noticed that. It says everything.
It's brilliant.
So that's an advantage of 280 characters.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that again, did have some other beers in Amsterdam, but that was a couple of highlights from just one particular place, which was just wonderful, easy to find.
It sounds like you had a great weekend.
It was good.
Yeah.
Nice mix. Catching up with
for the
friends.
second time in as many weeks or months, I've had to mute you for a few days because I was just getting a little bit beer envious. So we've had quite the time while we've not been recording.
Well, we've not been recording. This is what happens when we don't record.
Yeah, we should record more often so people don't have to listen to us regaling the beers that we've been drinking. How are you finding the Farmhand?
Loving it.
I am. I've almost drained this.
The bit about the green tea I think I'm getting from it is the dryness. Because on the odd occasion I do have green tea, I find it very dry.
For me, I really enjoyed that dryness at the end because it kind of almost harks back to the IPA dryness that I enjoy.
Yeah.
But it had more, again, of that classic saison quality about it than the funkiness.
Exactly, it was lacking that farmhouse feel, funkiness to it.
And I wonder if that's the grapefruit that's come through and done that to the dryness, because grapefruit can be very dry as well on its flavour.
Mm. Well, what the grapefruit probably did was added that little bit of fruit as well to take off the edge of that.
Yeah. The
green tea, a bit of the dryness. Wonderful combination to come up with. I don't know if I've ever seen that.
No, and it works so well.
Yeah.
As well, works really well. So as promised,
Hopinions, 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 Hopinions.
we've got 3 of these this week to get through.
3 what?
3 polls, mate.
Sorry, we've still got polls today.
Yes, yeah, we've still got polls.
Okay, sorry.
We're going to be very quick with these because we've got some bitter and Lingonist that we absolutely have to cover this week. So a few weeks back, first one we asked was about collaborations. So we asked whether they were the best thing ever or whether enough now.
After listening to us talk for the last hour and a half, no.
Probably not, yeah. 251 votes, 59% of people voting in favour of enough now. A few of the comments that we had, so from Jamie Day at Not Just a Beer JD, and also from Danny Rogers at RogerDan26, speaking about the Rainbow Project, saying that they really struggled to get excited about collabs. Rainbow Project has gone from being the best thing ever to I simply don't care in a year, due to there being so many collaborations out there. That saw a follow-up question from Miles Lambert, who said, has the plethora of collabs reduced the appeal of the Rainbow Project?
Yeah, that's what I would have said to the. So I read that comment from Jamie, and I thought the same thing. And Miles put it in a tweet. Yeah, I mean the Rainbow Project is still, it's still quite an innovative way of getting collaborations to happen.
Absolutely.
Every year, different theme, different way of different pairing up and that kind of stuff. Has the plethora of collabs. Yeah, I mean, and yeah, probably the Rainbow Project has probably sort of just, got swamped by it all, to be honest.
I think so, but I think it's easy to forget what's happened as a result of the Rainbow Project, which links nicely to what Pete said at Hops and Hoops. He said he couldn't vote on this poll. He doesn't think they're the best thing ever, but he doesn't want to see them come to an end. Without collabs, we wouldn't have Yellow Belly. Now, Yellow Belly was originally a Rainbow Project beer and has since become, it's since become an annual release, although it's not come out this year yet. I've certainly not seen a 2017
There's been no mention so far.
release of Yellow Belly. And then also the other one that was mentioned was from our favourite Drink Drunk John at Drink Drunk Blog, who also mentioned what you just said there. Also, collabs between modern and more traditional breweries might lead to an interesting results, i.e. the upcoming Fuller's Cloudwater collab and that Fuller's and Friends box, which we're hoping to feature on a show in a few weeks' time. So that's poll number 1, which was collaborations. What beer have we got now? We've got another Ampersand.
Ampersand. So the last one from Ampersand, Cocow, chocolate and milk stout, 5.1%. And again, same as the others, I'm fine unfiltered bottle conditioned beer.
Cheers.
Okay, does exactly what it says on the label. It's a milk stout.
It's a little bitter at the end. I'd maybe prefer a little bit more sweetness in there for a milk stout.
True, maybe a little bit more lactose.
But we'll see how that develops now it's in the glass.
Quickly, your answer to that poll.
Collapse. I still get a little bit excited when I see 2 brewers announce. I think very much depends on the brewers that have announced they're going to collab.
Yeah.
I don't simply want it to be a vanity project or an internet collab.
No, you want people to meet up.
Yeah, I want them to both actually be in the room while the beer is being brewed.
No, I get that, and I think for me, I did almost need that third option on this one. A bit like Pete said from Hops and Hoops, can't vote. Are they the best thing? Probably not. Are they the worst thing? Definitely not. But
where's the middle ground?
But some of the beers which have come out of it at times, and Yellow Belly is probably one of the perfect examples of that, can be fantastic. And also, I get excited when I see the traditional brewers doing stuff. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want them to stop.
I don't want them to stop, no, but I want them to be done for the right reasons.
Yes.
I think is where I sit on
Yeah.
that one. So poll 2 was pumpkin beers, because dropped this the weekend before Halloween. Felt like the appropriate time. We've got Hell Yes or Get in the Sea. 361 votes, 72% in favour of Get in the Sea. I think that definitively puts to bed pumpkin beers.
Apart from, who are those 28%?
And then the most recent one, this was this week's poll, which was about awards. If a brewery or beer has won awards, are you more likely to buy their beers? So bearing in mind the last 2 polls, we had 412 people vote this week. 75% of people voting for awards don't matter. So, and I just want to pick up just a couple of comments on this one, because there were some really good ones.
There were some longer than 280 character comments.
There were some people put a few tweets together on this one. So Simon Clark at Simon Carbon, it's all a matter of taste. Beer isn't a competition, just like music and art aren't, which is interesting.
And not easy to say, art aren't.
Yeah, especially after this many beers, to expand it to a wider genre there. And then we had John Rogers at JM Rogers 2000. Far too many different sources for awards. Social media reviews given by people you trust are much more important. Even more influential are blogs based around experiences visiting, brewing or drinking beers. Personally, meeting and chatting with a brewer a key influence. So interesting comments there.
Which, to be fair, when I read that, because that's, when I'm still writing my blogs, which I tend to do off season now. That's more what I do is about the experiences rather than purely, about the beers and what they may or may not have won. So yeah, I can definitely relate to that one.
And then there were 2 comments which I think, and I put this out as a tweet as well, I think these 2 work in a real counterpoint to one another. So Miles Lambert at Miles Lambert, and this is a couple of tweets put together, of which Miles used the 280 characters to their maximum. Interesting. As a consumer, I'm not really sure which awards have any value. It often feels like there are a few different awards and I've never really been sure which ones were really worthwhile. The clearest award I know of is Camera Beer of the Year, as I can see the premise for that beer winning came from. However, very rare that I'd agree with the result. And the one thing that ruins the credibility of some industries' awards is lame, transparent, sycophantic, inner circle backpatting. If the public don't see the validity of the winners in most cases, the awards lose their consumers' respect. So that was quite the comment from Miles, which got a lot of love on Twitter.
Yes.
That particular comment.
I think also, when you break it down in two bits, obviously, he's right. I think the clearest award is probably the Camera Beer of the Year. He's also probably right that rarely agree with the result. I think we've all said that at times.
Yeah.
Rarely agree with the result. Before I say more about Miles' comment, and obviously I'm opening another beer, what was your final thoughts about the last one from Ampersand, the Cocow?
Just incredibly drinkable.
It was
the rate at which we drank that, it just it softened.
Yeah. But do you think that the lack of the sweetness at the end, which you mentioned earlier, helped the drinkability?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I've got to say, I'm not a massive fan of all these milkshake beers that there are now, because I want a beer to taste like a beer, not like a milkshake.
Mm-hmm. Want a milkshake, I'll go and buy one.
Exactly. So I think in terms of it being a chocolate milk stout, I think there were chocolate characteristics. I don't think it had enough sweetness to really pull off that style. But I think the sweetness worked in balance with the bitterness that was in there.
Yeah. So maybe more the descriptor led you down a different path, but the beer was nice.
Absolutely.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Definitely. So going back to Miles' comment, obviously, the Canberra beer, yes. Think of that. That there's very clear criteria how it ends up being awarded that Champion Beer Britain award. And I get lost with all those different beer awards. And to be fair, we tried to keep up with it, and I get lost with it. What?
But you see so many 500ml bottle beers proudly displaying their medals in the supermarkets, don't you?
It means nothing to me.
It means absolutely. Is that going to make? I don't know. Maybe it makes some people buy the beer, and
it's like is it the World Beer Awards? And there's like hundreds of categories.
Yeah, the categories in that are ridiculous,
and they're quite finite categories. They really narrow it down, don't they? It's like end of year awards at schools these days. Someone ends up with a prize. Everyone ends up with a prize.
I think I once printed that off, and it came out on 19 pages that printed out.
But that's just ridiculous, isn't it?
And trying to sort through that and work out which are the ones that you want to talk about is just that's when you've got 19 pages of award winners, you've got to question the awards.
There's too many categories.
Yeah,
I know that beer has grown and our definitions of beer styles has grown, but if you're going to keep the interest of anyone other than we're pretty geeky, and if you're not keeping our interest, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Last beer. What have we got?
Last beer. So we've got, this is Grain Slate. So this is a black beer that's again been lagered. So cheers.
Cheers. So
it's got a nice nose to it. It's a little.
While you're starting that one, shall I read the last one?
Yeah, go on.
So the counterpoint to Miles's comment. This is from Charles Davey at Chuck Davey. Always fascinated by the number of writers, critics, bloggers who say beer awards don't matter, but then trade that off with importance in their own nominations for writing as a sign of quality in their work. Awards matter, and breweries should celebrate their successes. Awards either matter or they don't. Any critic taking a personal award but not respecting beer awards is kind of an insult to everyone in the chain from ingredients to end customer distribution.
I just think that works so well with what Miles said. There's almost no more I can say at that point, because I think what Charles said there absolutely sums it up.
I mean, he's right. I mean, you can't have it both ways. I just struggle to work out what all the awards mean.
So that's a quick summary. Let's say a quick
summary
of what's happened while we've been gone. We've also had quite a lot of listener feedback over the past few weeks as well. Before we do that, thoughts on the slate that we've just poured.
Initially, I think it's really well balanced.
I'm loving it. I think at the point where we've chosen to drink it in the evening, at the end is perfect.
So this is described as a smoked black, silky, lagered beer, 6%. At the moment, all I'm just getting is just everything's all in balance.
I'm getting the silky,
Yeah,
hints of smoke,
but
very subtle hints.
yeah, you know it's there.
I'm getting a little bit of saltiness from it as well, which is just working really well for me. That's a really good beer. And I've had this one before. Now I had this back in April, and I had it in the Ale House in Chelmsford, which I'm guessing means I had it on cask. Only gave it 3 out of 5 on Untapped, but my comment was it's a perfect porter, dry and roasted. I can't believe that I would have given something that was perfect only 3.
Yeah, the comment and the score.
My check-in doesn't make sense.
No.
But
maybe it wasn't the first beer of the evening.
From what I'm tasting here, it's what is undoubtable is it's a really good beer.
Yeah, that smokiness is definitely
it's
there.
working in the can as well.
But it's not overpowering.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
So come on then.
Right.
Let us know, write it down. Let us know, write it down. Let us know your thoughts and bitter and lingerness. Write it down.
First of all, music. So from Atwell Beer Review. Every Monday morning I listen to Beer O'Clock Show. Every time I get the let us know vocal jingle stuck in my head for the rest of the day.
Job done.
Job done, tick. Roland Glue at Has Been New Boy. Opinions is always interesting and a great listen, but I think Beer O'Clock Show end of episode music choice is now my most anticipated part.
I'm still not happy about that.
Are you not?
No, he's not. The best bit is the end.
Oh, I thought it was because you didn't have any say in the music that I was choosing.
Well, there is that as well. I never get asked about the music choice, do I?
When you start editing, you can choose the music at the end of the show.
So it's a bit like designated driver.
There you go. Next subject heading, other podcasts. So we got a shout out from Men Behaving Badly at MBB Podcast. If you've not given them a listen yet, I really like what the guys are doing up there. They're basically doing the beer journey for people, so that they're going through beers that they can get locally in the supermarket. They're trying to bring other people in on their podcasts. Still getting feedback on the Sparklers show as well, which shows the longevity and the excellence of that show that we put together, I think.
And I just want to add there that a friend of mine, Mark, who I used to work with, he's up in Sheffield. He's up there with his brother, and his brother's apparently a really new listener, and is boring my friend Mark because he spotted the bit on the show notes saying sparklers, creamers, and nothing, and apparently he's been talking about it for ages.
Brilliant. It seems to have done its job.
Yeah, people have really got quite engaged with that.
Yeah, so again, Roland Glue at Has Been New Boy, nearly finished opinions on sparklers, essential listening on beer dispense. Thanks to everyone involved. And Dan Young at DWY6613. Just listened to my first opinions podcast by Beer O'Clock Show. Very interesting and informative talk from Andy at Victoria in Colchester.
And us.
And us.
Presumably this was pre-280 characters.
Clearly. And then Roland, who's had a lot of comments tonight, clearly catching up on old shows.
Yeah.
Then gave some feedback around the branding.
I presume Steve must be away.
Clearly. Opinions, just finished branding. Interesting to hear your thoughts on Drygate's new look. Absolutely nothing like Beavertown cans. Also, disagree. Reed Colonel stood out super well 5 years ago, but bottle shelves have changed a lot since then.
We did have I did have a Twitter discussion with Roland about this. I think my point of view at the time was that it's now as well. Would it stand out now to non-beer people?
But no, it wouldn't. And we had this discussion. Yeah. It wouldn't.
So that was my.
But once you've tried it once, you would always look for that label in a bottle shop.
Yes, as long as you try it.
Without a doubt.
As long as you try it.
Yeah.
Because that's what we did.
And that's where it takes somebody to advocate that beer to you, to say you must try this beer.
You need a personal recommendation from someone.
Yeah, and then we've got 2 questions from loyal listener Paul at UNRCD this week. One of these I know you've already answered on Twitter. So the first one is, what do you think is the best looking favourite beer can at the moment?
But that wasn't the one I asked though, was it?
No.
No, that's what I was thinking. Shit, I missed something. I can't say my favourite beer can, but Magic Rock still always sticks out for me.
I am going to go for maybe surprisingly not Magic Rock, because normally I would go for Magic Rock because I do think their branding is very distinctive. I'm going to go for Northern Monk Patrons beers because I still don't think there's anything as unique as that wraparound label that they've got on those beers.
You don't see them often enough though. They're not around often enough on shelves for you to spot them.
I agree. I've got to agree. So if it's going with something mainstream, I'd probably have to go Magic Rock or Beavertown because they're the two that stand out the most.
And
on the
their
shelf.
branding is unique to them,
and distinctive enough
yeah.
from one another. And then the second one, this is the one that you've already answered. Go into the pub on your own. Do you go to the pub on your own? Does it matter what time of day or whether you know the pub?
Okay, so that's 3 questions. Yes, no, no.
I'm the same. I'm yes, no, no. I'll go to the pub whenever.
Yeah.
Whenever I feel like it.
And breathe.
We're there.
What do you think? Halfway through.
Still loving this.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah. Probably the beer of the evening for me.
I think so. I think we got the audit just bang.
Followed closely by the Saison.
Yep, I'll go with that.
And then all the others after that. Just again, want to say a massive thank you to Ampersand and to Grain for putting together this little care package for us to try on the show this evening. If you want to get involved in anything we've spoken about this evening, use the hashtag Hopinions. We will find you. We're always keen to take your comments and views on things that we've said. And also, just because I've heard a lot of other podcasts do it recently, make sure you get out there and rate us on your preferred listening.
And we never actually asked anyone to do that.
No, not quite so publicly like this.
Okay, rate. I do it all the time.
Apparently it matters. It pushes us up in the rankings and makes us even...
Rate us then, definitely rate us.
Yeah.
When it's good.
Or when it's bad. All feedback is good. Can always work on any feedback.
Only if it's quantitative.
Yes.
You can't just work on ratings.
Absolutely. So, next week.
Next week?
It's our 50th show.
It's almost next week now.
It's our 50th show next week, mate.
What, me and you together?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Opinions proper. If you take out the pilot show, which doesn't count, take out the previously on, which doesn't count, and take out the films shows, it's Opinions 50 next
So what you
week.
mean is we've done about 60?
We've done a few shows, yeah, but
50 show? Bloody hell.
in terms of actual numbered shows, next week is number 50.
Ooh. So what are we doing?
Should we do something special?
I think we should. Steve, have you got a plan?
Of course I've got a plan.
What is it?
It's a little bit copied from something that somebody else has already done, but I liked the idea so much that I thought that we should do it.
Go on
So the beer channel, who haven't been shouted out enough this season.
No, in fact, barely heard of them.
Absolutely. They one of their videos is they do a 3-way tasting of impy stouts that have been aged in a Scottish whiskey barrel, an Irish whiskey barrel, and a bourbon whiskey barrel.
Ooh.
So we're going to recreate that experiment and do our own version of it next week. So we've got a beer from Scotland that's been aged in a Scottish barrel. We've got a beer from Ireland that's been aged in an Irish barrel, and we've got a beer from the States that's been aged in a bourbon barrel. And that's how we're going to celebrate our 50th birthday.
That's not a bad way to celebrate, to be honest.
I think that's a good way to go out, isn't it?
We can do that.
Yeah. So looking forward to that next week.
Yeah.
Let's finish off this beer. I think we're not going to finish it on this show, but
no.
This has been the beer of the evening for me.
Definitely.
This
is lovely.
Slate is absolutely perfect. Thanks everyone for sticking with us. Hope you've enjoyed our look back over the last few weeks, and we'll be back drinking some ridiculous beers next week.
Again.
Cheers.
Look